demos, we get to work the whole time.
You're going to get demos, but I have to do this first. That's the
Oh,
whole
I'm
point.
fine
Because
without
we've got
demos.
4 till 4 o'clock technically. Okay. And also I'm into, Vinay is supposed to be back at 2 or something. So, okay. You don't have to use neuroplastic reinforcements after a neurolight session to get results. Don't have to. But if you do, and they're functional, and the person does them, it's the compliance issue, you will get better results. So if you can get better results, why not? Right? There are, as I've already mentioned, one limitation is compliance, famously. That's why, as I frequently say, when a person has asked me in the past, what is the best exercise, I always say the same thing. It's the best exercise is the one you're going to do.
Yeah.
Right? The theory is really not very impressive for results. So when it comes to creating or utilizing neuroplastic reinforcements following a neurolight session, 2 things to keep in mind. One is to choose a reinforcement that is on or encompasses what I call the vector. So if you're working with memory, and if you can have specific memory-related reinforcements, that's going to be good. All right? The other is you've also got to choose something that the person is actually going to do. Because if you choose something they're not going to do, number one, you don't get the good result. Number two, they'll come back and either lie to you or not come back because they didn't do what they're supposed to do, or. So, we've got to try to find some kind of a middle ground. There might be a tremendously effective neuroplastic reinforcement, but it's so demanding of time and learning that they say no, they might say yes to you, but they're not going to do it. Okay. A great compromise is to have, at least in the beginning, some neuroplastic reinforcements that, number one, are easy to do, and number two, apply to a lot of the vectors.
Yeah.
Like, well, that sounds really nice. I'd like to have those. So it takes the demand off of you as a practitioner, as a coach, from being so smart that you know all these different specific neuroplastic reinforcements that are exactly for their vector. And also it takes the pressure off of them because it's a lot easier to use them. So what I'd like to do, and I posted it already in the site, and for people that get the Monster Doc now, it'll be one of the isolated things. And what it says is that this is like a short list, or not, like a bullet point, and if you want to go into detail about any of these, go into the Monster Doc and you'll see the whole article about it. So that's what I want to do right now, is I want to talk about probably 4 or 5 that, number one, they're kind of shotguns instead of rifles, which is really good for you because it takes the pressure off choosing it, and also they're generally attractive and easy to do for the person, right? And with more experience, then you can refine these things down, and you'll have your own. And I also expect to, when I can, to put together a list of like 10 movement-related neuroplastic reinforcements, 10 mental, and maybe 10 sensory, or 5 sensory, because you've got that. Then you've got a list. But the fact is that if you ever only knew the few that I'm going to talk about right now, you'd probably you'd be satisfying that issue. So it depends on how much you can learn and how fast you can learn, because you got a lot to learn about the neurolight itself. You got to have experience the sessions. You got to see what they're like. I think it's really good to do some session work where the demand exceeds your capacity, where you see, oh, that's really true. It's like, oh, I can do advanced yoga, and the next 2 days you can barely move. You think, well, this sucks. It's like, well, okay, maybe I will go to the beginner's class. I guess it's true. So you got a lot of stuff to learn, and you're going to learn it according to the circumstance of your life and your interests. I think learning what post-session neuroplastic reinforcements you can do, right now I'd like you to do, like take an easier path, like a good enough path for that. In the same way that I'm advising you to work with the help right now aspects of the Neurolite, work with these very, very effective but generalized things. And you could talk about them so that the person has a sense that it's working with them more. And the fact is that it does.
Are you going to include the gratitude in this?
Yes? Now everything is fine?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that
Okay.
we promised we went there.
Okay, here's the first one. And if you go to the Facebook page, it's listed there. So if you don't want to type it, it's there. And I'm just going to talk from that because I just wrote them down last night for myself. But they're all in the Monster Doc as separate articles, so each one gets fat. But this is the bullet point version. Partly for me to remember, and then also for you to refer to. Okay, so this first one, and I'm going to switch one day by progressives.
In a bright color.
No. I've got a whole bunch of those.
Get some pink ones.
Okay, you can do this one either in sequence or choose parts of it. So there are 4. I think what I gave them some like fancy, silly name. I think the Simple 4 or something. Anyway, okay. The first one is when you're in that state. So this is what you're going to tell them to go off with. Okay. Anytime that they can have a moment, reflect on what can I be grateful for? What am I grateful for? That's the gratitude thing. So actually it's the first one on my list and the first of the ones. And so it's ask. Ask yourself, what am I grateful for? And what's fascinating about it is that even if you can't find an answer, and I love all of these that I'm giving you have all been significantly validated with a lot of brain scan studies and all, so it isn't just like some psychologist has a good idea. When you look at the brain, even if you get no answer about what I'm grateful for, just the process of searching engages the reward areas of the brain, and you get beneficial effects. So you get rewarded for even attempting to identify something that you're grateful for. That's just wonderful. Just wonderful. Just the attitude of looking at your experience to see if there's something that stimulates gratitude is a reward to the brain. So you begin a process where you start that effect, see that's the brain shaping, where you're coaxing it, you're coaxing it, you're coaxing it. A step at a time, journey of 1,000 miles, that whole kind of a thing. Okay, so this is basically when you go out there, do that. And what will happen is it mobilizes the reward center of the brain so that the stimulation from the Neurolite session is actually potentiated. It builds because you're giving the brain, in my world, chocolate for just looking at your life to see if there's any kind of grateful experience that you can identify. The other one, you can do this in sequence. If they need like a 1, 2, 3, right? Or you can use any one of these. Of course, in sequence, they're more powerful because what you're doing is you're vectoring, you're moving them. The next thing is, okay, when you do this, what you're going to be encountering is that you have all these different kinds of negative thoughts that come and go. Negative feelings, negative thoughts. And I already talked about this earlier. Label them. Label. Give it a name. And if you give it a name, your brain takes one step away from it. So it's not as bothered by it. It's not as bothered by it. So you could use that as a simple one. If a person gets worried, like Sergio, that's what he identified on Monday. He visited us
Oh, yeah.
on Sunday, rather. He visited
yeah.
here on Monday,
Exactly.
right? I'm not saying don't worry. I'm just saying when you worry, notice it and label it. I'm worrying. Just by the process of attention with a label decreases the limbic experience because it moves it up into the cognitive network, cognitive control network, simply because you give it a name. You might have noticed that there were times, you remember, what did I say to Sergio? I said, give it a name, and he said, John.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and it's the same thing with the
That was so interesting.
underdeveloped brain of the toddler, from the lower reptilian,
Yep.
big emotion brain. All I have to do is say, looks like you're feeling really frustrated. That
Yes.
acknowledgement then allows the connection to the quote-unquote higher brain
The cognitive
of
control network.
logic and rationale, and she shifts out of it.
Yes, that's what it does in terms of the neurological activity, is that by labeling a distressful state, that the labeling disengages some amount from the feeling state into this cognitive state, and the brain feels less bothered now that it has a name. Yes.
So can you name it John, or do you name it worry?
No, I would say, well, it's up to you what you want to label it, but you give it a name. Just giving it, it's like even looking for gratitude
Identify.
triggers the effect. Even deciding, looking for a name. Obviously, by association, if you call worry John, after a while it's going to work regardless. But the idea is the identification, it's the beginning of a one step back. It's the beginning of the observer. It's the beginning of putting it into a position where now you can modify it more easily. So, label. The first one I have ask and grateful underlined. And the second one I just have label. I guess you can put label negative. Just giving it a name. Of course, if you want to call it worry. And see, I'm referring here over to Catherine because she was there on Sunday, and she saw how you can even incorporate these things in the interview process to coax it forward. And I've done this with other people in the past, and they will, there's the feeling, I say, give it a name, and they say, Mom. Like, And that's the one that ended up very convoluted, very intelligent, idealistic, spiritual woman that I was working with, that it all came down to, within 6 or 7 minutes, I hate my mother and that makes me a bad person.
This was during the interview process? Oh, wow. Yeah.
To
It
that.
was 20 years of therapy.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
6 minutes.
All right.
Yeah. And okay, then,
Wow.
what's in the way of you being a good person? And that's,
Yeah.
boom. Okay, then that's what we do. So, number 3 is decide to go for good enough instead of best decision on earth. Right? That they want to make a decision, and that decision, that action, that expectation, that goal is not perfect. You don't need perfection, you just need good enough. I usually say it's like parking your car in the garage. It doesn't have to be dead center. As long as there's enough room on each side to get out without banging the side of the garage, that's good enough. Right? It doesn't have to be exactly dead center, even though by theory that's how it's designed. So decide that good enough is good enough. Take the pressure off. Make it a result that you can achieve. Make it within your reach. Why make a goal that you can't reach? That's called it's like a sabotage, right? A self-fulfilling prophecy. And you guarantee that you fail by choosing a goal that you can't reach.
Is that also called chunking?
like chunking it down to something small?
I suppose it could be, yeah. You know, it's not really so much chunk. I don't know. It's not like degree. It's an attitude change.
Yes.
You know, my wife oftentimes says, I don't know why. She says nobody's perfect, and that's the truth. You know, and there's no perfect solution. There's no perfect state. So if you think, you know, the process needs to be this idealized, excellent, perfect, hey, good enough. So again, you can, out of this thing, what I call the simple four, I think I called it that. I just make up names, right? So you can either take them out of this sequence or use them as a sequence, because they develop very nicely. I won't go into all the rationale why they develop nicely as a sequence, but they do. And the last one
I'm
is
gonna trust you.
touch.
Yes.
Touch. And this goes back to the primitive brain, right? This is a brain you can touch directly.
When you say touch, you mean when people touch you or you touch other people?
This is the thing about touch is that it's always reciprocal. You can't touch somebody without them touching you, because you contact, whether it's hand to hand or hug or whatever. It's the experience of basically skin to skin. And you know, there's been a significant amount of credible research on, you know, of course at a neurohormonal level, or transmitter level, but you know, the power of hugs.
Yeah.
You know.
Babies in NICU, touching them.
Yeah. So, see, you might not realize, but you know,
Difference.
that a very potent neuroplastic reinforcement, which is general but effective when you're already working with a vector, even though it doesn't express the vector, it still mobilizes the vector, is touch, hugs, cuddles, massage, any shaking hands, holding hands. That the power of touch, you know, when we talked on Monday a little bit about the four brains, right? That cranial, heart, gut, skin. That this is actually, and nature doesn't throw away good things, right? The skin is still part of the total brain. And one of the most potent neuroplastic reinforcement techniques is safe touch.
There's some really exciting research now about the 4 stages of water. I think you may have
Yeah. With Pollock, actually.
Yeah, and Dr. Thomas Cowan, who actually brings it into his practice, talks about what to do, and one of the major ones is touch.
Mm-hmm.
Either the touch of another human being, or he says if you don't have somebody to hold and cuddle with and touch, then get yourself an animal that you can pet.
Well, yes, and they'll lay on you and lick you, and
Really,
I have 3 big German boxers that
Fighting for lap space.
Right.
you get 3 German boxers that all want to lay in your lap at one time. It's a real.
How would you suggest we can incorporate this, maybe that we could do it for them, or that we can suggest how they get it within?
Well, you know, I've spent a lot of my professional life experience in massage therapy, body work, spas, all that. Still have a big, wonderful spa in Bangkok right now, 13 years old. We have 35, 40 people. It's my world. I lived in touch. Touch is number one for me. To me, if I was still doing massage and body work,
Yeah.
it's completely a no-brainer to do massage right after in that 2-hour period.
If you can find a good therapist.
Well, okay, that aside.
Sorry.
But the point is that even a simple massage is experienced as the best massage you've ever had.
Even lymphatic stroking, you can just
Anything.
somebody.
Oh, that's a good idea.
But as a massage therapist, foot massage,
Yeah.
you know, not Reiki, but like therapeutic touch, actual, polarized touch through clothing. Fantastic. You know, it's so powerful. It's exponential in a process, right?
Yeah.
If for whatever reason they didn't feel comfortable with a second source of touch, like they stroking or the skin brushing,
Mhm.
they would do that within that 2-hour
Yeah.
period.
Yeah, touch, 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 touch.
Okay. So it
You
doesn't
know,
have
better
to
than
be
not.
from another person.
Well, if for some reason there's they
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah, yeah.
access it, they didn't feel comfortable with it. Some people don't like to be touched or massaged.
Okay,
Because-
like here's a variable on the touch thing.
Yeah.
Take off your shoes, walk barefoot in the grass.
Yeah.
What's
Not only that, you
Let
get the
Mother
earth,
touch
you
it.
get the earthing thing. Or go hug a tree. You know, I would extend it beyond
Earthing
animals
is
to
one of
plants.
them, actually. I mean, standing outside in the grass, in the sunlight, those are all things that help with fluoride
Well,
levels.
yeah, and these are all the same thing.
Basic.
They're all basic.
Okay, got it.
So that's what I call the simple four. You can use them in sequence, or you can extract one or two of them. You know, you can maybe just do the what am I grateful for and label negative feelings. So what you see is that's more in the mental domain.
You can
Right.
even have them massage their hands with coconut oil.
Well, on and on and on and on. That's why I'm presenting these, because I think that they're reasonable, they're accessible, they have potency, and they're all impressively validated in some very elegant neuro research. So, you know, I made sure that these things are not, you know, like nice ideas or just purely psychological, that it really shows effects in the brain organ, which they do. So, and as Catherine can tell you, I sometimes use some of these in the pre-session interview process to start to work the system,
Yeah.
to start to work it. But anyway, that's the first one. The second one can also be done in sequence, although it's a bit long for a sequence. There's 7 steps. You can pick one or two and develop a short sequence, or you can extract and just do one. Okay? And you'll see how there's a merging and melting in these things of both movement and mental and sometimes sensory as well. Okay, the first of item number 2, the first thing is faith. We talked about it earlier today. Faith, I don't mean religious faith, although some people will use religious faith as their form of faith. But the idea is, as we had said, and I think you were still here, that the potency of neuroplastic change we know is triggered by conscious attention. But if you want to fortify the trigger, that there's faith that attends the attention, that a person feels yes. And it's of no surprise to me that in, you know, like, well, in many of the religious traditions, but like in certain aspects of Christian religion, that the having faith in Jesus is the cardinal whatever factor. It's the big deal, and I get it. That thing of confidence, that thing that goes from hope less to hopeful. That's a huge motivating principle in neuroplastic change. That confidence, that decision.
Absolutely.
So, number one is that you bring forward and you ask them to recognize what they have faith in this world, right? What do you have faith in? What do you really trust? And you try to bring out, it doesn't matter much what it is. You know, I have faith that my big dog Tiger is going to love me when he sees me. It doesn't much matter. It's like the gratitude thing, the grateful thing. Just going towards that is already enlivening that. And very quickly you get to see whether they're able to mobilize the reinforcement after the session or not.
It's part of the visual network of the,
Yep,
of the
seeing
imagination.
it. That's right. That's right. So if they have trouble there, you kind of know how to do some triage work on that. You know, I would say the faith thing, like to put clothes on it, would be see yourself being better than you are now. Right? Can you have faith in that vision? You know, let them know that they can go off and they'll reflect on this thing, and that you want to build that quality of faith. Okay, number 2. regardless of what the topic is, encourage that person to have dialogue with others. We're social. Much of our world is built on each other. And maintaining, hopefully positive, but maintaining dialogue with other people enables neuroplastic change. It's a reinforcement. Dialogue with others. So, try to be around others for touch. That links to the last one. And, I don't know. If I'm not around humans, I talk to my animals all the time. And my understanding is quite clear. They may not understand the words, but they understand the tones. They understand the music of the voice. They understand my facial language, my body language. And I can understand them too in that way. So dialogue with others, shoot, go talk to a tree. If there's nobody to talk to, go talk to the tree. Pause once in a while so you can listen. Right?
Answer yourself.
Angels, you can talk to your angels.
Just, dialogue. The point is dialogue with others. That is a fluid potentiator of neuroplastic change. Fluid. It's one of the reasons I think a lot of psychological counseling works. It doesn't matter in the least what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's the energy that moves back and forth and back and forth. This next one, I think, the she that's not here, the doc, the female, forgotten her name, your friend that was here. What is her name?
Melissa.
Sorry?
Melissa?
She's a nurse.
No, she's an assistant.
She's a doctor, right? She's an anesthesiologist. Anyway, aerobic exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this fits right into which we'll get into, the memory walk.
Yeah.
If you want to move your brain, move your body. Every time you move your body, you move your brain. And if you want your brain to be moving, aka changing, then move your body. I've got one coming up a little. I'm leaving of these three. The last one is my favorite. You'll see. Number 4, by whatever you describe it or define it, meditate. If you want to give a very simple neuroplastic reinforcement, ask them between sessions, once or twice a day if they can, sit down, stand up, lay down, doesn't much matter, follow your breath. Just do that. It's crazy how well it works. Especially if there's already a momentum. The neurolight process is already creating actions in a vector. So anytime you do that, that vector is mobilized. And this next one, you may have to read the full article on this. Either spontaneous or conjured yawn. Yawning. Yawning has an impressive neurological effect on the brain. It refreshes, it focuses, it provides reward, it does all these crazy things.
Wow.
I love to yawn.
Yawning.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Not sneezing.
I love that more.
I know.
How about
Sneezing is-
Oh, it makes
I
me
know.
so happy.
I know, you just
How about
get off on
Oh,
that
yeah,
thing.
totally.
How about snoring?
How about snoring?
Not quite the same.
Don't think so. Don't think so. Yeah, yawning. You can either really yawn or just fake it. And it has almost exactly the same effect on the brain.
What about fake smiling?
Well, that's my last one.
Oh, it is.
I've got one more before that. Is this a real big shock? Consciously relax. Just whatever it takes. Sit down, lay down, turn around, hokey pokey, whatever. I oftentimes say that relaxation is not the goal, but it is the gateway. Almost every therapeutic process known to man and animal works better if there is conscious relaxation.
Brought up yawning.
Good, good. Yawning is the most common and primitive form of hypnosis. That's why when you yawn, and of course it's mammalian, even a dog yawning will trigger a cat yawning, will trigger a human yawning.
Would you agree with following your breath being something that you can try and do to what we were grappling with the default mode?
I don't know. I don't like to say things in a teaching mode if I don't know the answer. And if I say it, I'll say that I don't know, but this is what I think. I don't know whether... I don't know. That's actually quite a big question to answer. Okay, about consciously relaxing. I think I recently posted, you may not have seen it. Do you know this thing called vagal tone? Right? I mean, doctors know it, obviously. When you inhale, your heart rate goes up. When you exhale, the heart rate goes down. And the difference is called the vagal tone. And in quite impressive studies, it's been noted that person, good girl, hey, yawn, that persons suffering from depression, clinically diagnosed depression, not just that they're down, have a very narrow vagal tone. And that the simplest way to increase vagal tone is to practice a form of relaxed breathing where the exhale is longer than the inhale. Now, if you want to make it more technical, you can do a count, like 5 seconds in, 7 seconds out. There's so many pranayama techniques and all kinds of techniques that know this extremely well. Now, linking it through neuroplastic states and clinical conditions relative to vagal tone, we can say rather confidently that the greater your vagal tone, the better you feel. And specifically, a person that's depressed, you'll notice that typically they have a very shallow breath, and that if you measure, that they have a very narrow vagal tone.
I noticed recently, just lying in bed at night because of the amount of stress I've been under,
Yes.
my breath is so short.
Yes.
Just lying in bed, I'm listening to how short my breath is, amazed.
Yeah. Okay, one of the things to understand about breath, and the smile will come next, by the way, is that every emotional state has a correlated breathing rhythm. At first, the emotion controls the breathing. If it's over an extended period of time, the style of breathing becomes habituated. Then, when you're in a situation without, let's say, anxiety, or without depression, if you slip into your habituated breathing state, it will cause you to feel that emotion. In the beginning, the emotion causes you to breathe that way. After a while, the habituated breathing causes you to feel that emotion. The organism believes the breathing.
It's amazing.
And so